What is the difference between Ritalin and Adderall, and how are they different? I like to share on this stuff because I also think it relates a lot to substance abuse in a lot of different ways, of drugs of choice, of why we self-medicate, how we self-medicate, especially for ADHD, and to help maybe expand people's minds to realize that not all these ADHD meds are the same, and why there are different ones, and trial and error is so important. If you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe button. And the easiest way that I can explain the difference between Ritalin and Adderall is this. When you take Adderall, it ends up getting your brain to produce dopamine. Dopamine, if you know anything about it, is literally what people with ADHD helps us focus. That's why people, when we get, for ADHD, we get angry, we can get extreme tempers because we get hyper-focused because anger creates dopamine. Well, Adderall will create dopamine. It doesn't create the same amount of dopamine as crystal meth, so no, it's not the same. I have videos up on how they are chemically different. So this is how Adderall helps people focus. It will for about 6 to maybe 7 hours, depending on also if it's Adderall XR or not, versus normal Adderall, which is, I want to say it's like 4 to 5 hours, will produce dopamine through this trickle effect. It doesn't pass through the brain-blood barrier. So as it's continually hitting your brain, it's continually, creating dopamine. And how dopamine works is your receptors will absorb the dopamine and it moves on. Now, with how Ritalin affects is Ritalin doesn't actually affect the dopamine production. Ritalin, now there are other differences in this. This is the biggest and easiest way for me to explain it. But what Ritalin does is Ritalin doesn't allow for the reuptake of dopamine. Now, essentially what the reuptake is when the dopamine hits your brain and your neurotransmitters, it absorbs it in. Well, this allows it to compound up, which gives you still that same effect of a lot of dopamine. It's just what part of your brain and neurotransmitters is this dopamine at, which gives you a different effect. And that's why for somebody like me, Ritalin worked, but Ritalin didn't work nearly as long or as good as like Adderall did. Ritalin for me, it was very short lasted, maybe about 2 hours. It didn't give me this easier focus, this more calm focus that that Adderall gives me. And this is why you do trial and error, because when it comes to all these different ADHD meds, they all do different things to our different neurotransmitters. So none of them are identical. And that is the thing of trying to find out, essentially what one is going to work best for you and where it comes down to trial and error. Because I will say this, if you're taking an ADHD med, it shouldn't make you zone out. It shouldn't make you to the point that you are hyper-focused and too focused in. It shouldn't make you jittery. It should make you feel normal. You should be able to take an ADHD med and go, all right, let's do this. You're not the spontaneous. Your thoughts are organized. They're not jumping all over the place, and you can grab control of them. Versus I've met people that are on 60 milligrams, of Adderall or Vyvanse sometimes, and man, they are hyper focused on one task and one task only. And it's like, that's not really how ADHD meds should work. And again, I'm not a doctor and I'm not a therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, any of that. I was diagnosed ADD at 13. I was re-diagnosed ADHD at 17. This is back in the 90s. And I have trialed and errored it with a lot of different meds out there. And I've asked a lot of questions out there. And also because one of the amazing things is like, why did cocaine become my drug of choice? Because it does stop the reuptake. It gave me a jittery, just feeling good, but also focused. Well, because guess what? Cocaine mirrors Ritalin a lot more than what you would imagine. And so it was amazing how something that I didn't really like as an ADHD med became my drug of choice. Because of how it made me feel. And ultimately that is what it is like as an addict, especially if we don't take our ADHD meds, is we will find ways to self-medicate. And that's the scary part about it. I don't think that everybody out there is ADHD. I don't think everybody out there has autism or depression or any of that, but I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of us have trauma. And I think a lot of what leads us to addiction, personal belief, is a lot of trauma, self-medicating, just trying to be normal. And unfortunately, when it comes to ADHD, it's been proven that it is easier to become an addict through alcohol, through drugs, to feeling normal. And this is that unmedicated side of ADHD. I can tell you from personal experience, when I was medicated, I didn't struggle with it like I did with cocaine. I didn't struggle as much as I did with alcohol. But man, when I would completely cut out my meds, this was just a train wreck up here and I had to slow it down. So what did I do? I started self-medicating. And that's what I used a lot of alcohol for, and I used a lot of cocaine for. And that is how we get into this addiction side of such a dependency on it, of just trying to be normal, man, trying to silence this, quiet this. And that's why I share the way that I do. If you're new to the channel, hit the like and follow button, comment down below, because I feel that the more that we share, the more that we educate, the more that we share our experiences, the more that it helps people out there who are going through it. It is a struggle. It is a fight sometimes, man. It's a battle. But to know that you're not alone, to realize that there's no right way to get sober, knowing that there is no format to follow, that we all find our own way to it, whether it be through NA, through treatment centers, inpatient, outpatient, whether it be through doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, medication, NA, whatever, all the combination of it all. It's finding your way. And that's the key, I think, is finding your way, giving all the energy that you once gave into your addiction into your sobriety. And for the ones that are going through it right now, I am proud of you. Don't give up.